Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Change Coach Conversations. This is number 12, and it is the ironic way that change works. And this is my favorite thing in the world to talk about because it's ironic. And things that are ironic are kind of cool because it's like opposite from how it looks. So, how change happens, obviously, super important thing for a coach to know. And we coaches, if you're listening to this, super lucky, super fortunate because we we see how change works in a way that really is quite different from what most people see and understand about it. That makes us stand out. It makes us very different from pretty much every other type of coach there is out there because we see change differently. We can share it with our clients in a way that they have never seen or heard before. And it's incredibly effective and way different from everything else. So the way that most people think change works, or the way that, just in general, we go about change is we think of a bunch of things or notice or realize a bunch of things that we don't like, maybe even one thing that we don't like that we'd like to have change. So we focus on that. So we want to drink less or eat less or feel differently or think differently or do something differently, have some new habit, get rid of some bad habit, whatever it may be, right? And so we focus a lot, not on purpose, but just that's where our mind goes, right? This is the problem. This is the thing I want to change. So in some way, it's like highlighted and bright yellow in our heads, and we're thinking about it a lot, giving it all kinds of attention and energy. And then we logically, understandably, come up with a bunch of ways, or even just a few ways, that we are going to change our behavior around drinking, eating, thinking, how we feel, how we act. So it starts with this focus on what's wrong in our humble opinions, what's wrong and what we want to see change, tons of attention there. And then like, okay, here's what it is. I drink too much, I work too much, I do this too little, I feel too insecure, I feel too angry. How am I going to get myself to act or feel or think differently around those things? That's what happens in our little heads, right? Now, of course it does. There's such a logic to it. These are the things, right? They are the manifested, like in the world things that we want to see be different. And we're smart and we're resourceful and we're intelligent. So of course we're going to bring all of that and see what we can do to make those things different. It's also the place everyone looks and starts because it is, again, on some level, how we think change happens. I don't care who you are, like what you've seen, anything in some way. I think every single human being on earth has this bit of a belief or even just a little bit of thinking around like, it's up to me. It's up to me. And I'm going to be the one that's going to make this happen. So that's where we go. And it's not all bad. Change happens sometimes from that focus and from the strategies and here's what I'll do differently and all of that. I'm not saying change doesn't happen that way. Sometimes it's just that when it does, it tends to not be so deep. It tends to be this surface level because it's like I can do this thing differently for long enough that maybe it catches on, maybe there's some momentum. But what really ends up happening more often than not is that we bring tons of action to the table, which again, not bad, but we bring tons of action without deeper insight, without a deeper understanding. We don't see ourselves differently. We don't see our behavior or how our psychology works or who we are differently. We might a little bit in the process, of course, we're always having insights, but we don't start with the insight for the most part. We start with the action. So we just bring all this action and behavioral change to the table. Some sticks, a lot doesn't. And then we say, oh man, I worked for me for a few weeks or whatever, and I'm back to where I was. Or worse, we get frustrated and think there's something wrong with us. When we bring all that action and we focus exclusively or primarily there, rather than focusing primarily on the bigger insight behind all that action, we have, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of willpower, it takes a lot of discipline, and it's like us doing it. So we tend to get a little bit exhausted, and again, it just doesn't go deep enough. So again, we take that path because that's the only path we see to take. But here's the good news, right? Change is always happening. We cannot stop change from happening. We couldn't stop it if we tried. There's no possible way. All of that stuff that we're bringing our intellect and our strategies to the table to try to change, thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors, our identity, who we think we are, all of that, that's all made of psychology, and it is constantly in a state of change and flux. It is not stable. It is not like real in that sense. We experience it, it's a real experience, but it is not this fixed, stable thing that we need to bring something to in order to change. It is always changing, always shifting. Your thoughts and your feelings, your behaviors constantly. Now, the only problem is we don't know that. We don't know that. We are so used to thinking of ourselves as here's me and here's my issue and here's what I do too much of and I need to do this so that I can do it less. And we stare at that in our own way, right? But like our mind keeps going back there because it's what we believe is the truth. So in a sense, we stare at that so much. Like, well, here's my problem. Wake up in the morning, yep, still a binge eater, still an overdrinker. I still, have anger issues. I still have this thing unresolved. Consciously, unconsciously, all over the place. That's there as soon as our mind wakes up, even before our mind wakes up, because it looks real, looks true to us. That's what we believe. And so even though thought and feeling and behavior are constantly changing, we miss it. We miss it. And even as I say this now, I know it's almost too big to get our heads around, but see if you can kind of get a feel for that. Our mind is constantly going over to here's me and my issues and what's wrong. And so we just are in the experience of wherever our mind is going. But when we start to see, no, change is always happening. And sure, if you look back in your history, here's what happened and blah, blah, blah. But we don't need to camp out there. We don't need to camp out there. We want to look and help our clients look toward how things are always refreshing. Things are not as stable as they seem. There is no fixed anything. There is no fixed you. There is no fixed habit. When we think there is, we experience it. When we consider that there isn't and we look toward the always in fluxness of life, we see that. We see it all over the place. And we start to relax and we have bigger insights and we see change happening through us all the time. And we bring less effort and willpower to the table. And so we get to just relax into something and we just see it in a new way. And when our change starts with insight, or it's primarily, when insight is a big part of the equation rather than just effort and willpower being a big part of the equation, it's deep because insight is like huge, right? Like we see things in a new way. You can't unsee what you've seen. So the change that it like changes us at our core, not just at this very surface behavioral kind of level. So for you as a coach, you seeing this in your clients, you showing your clients this, it is gigantic. No one else is looking here. This is different than any life coach, any accountability coach, it's so much deeper than mindset. It's so much deeper than anything else. And we get to help our clients see how they are already always in a constant state of change. And that everything that looks like a problem is just not as stable and fixed as it appears to be. And I tell you, I've been so blessed to be doing this for years now, helping people see this about their change. And it just goes infinitely further, and it is so much more easy and rewarding and all of that than trying to force something that's not even fixed anyway, but we're just forcing it because we think it is, trying to force change in that way. Isn't this cool? I love this. So ironic. So it's like the less we do, the more we change. The more we push and willpower and fight, the less we change because we're trying to fight at something that wants to change on its own anyway. We're actually getting in the way. So I hope you can kind of start to see, it's a huge topic. I'm writing a whole book about it, but hope you can start to see like the power and the potential in what I'm sharing here about this ironic way that change works, because it is huge to being a coach and to helping people with anything. So on that, if you want to see more about coaching from this, like helping people see this ironic way that change happens, I keep saying that the Change Coach program starts 2 weeks from today. It's actually 2 weeks from tomorrow, but I have extended. The program is full. I said I was going to cap it at 20 people. There are 21 people in it right now. I've decided to, I've really been sitting with this, but I've decided to extend it and let a few more people in. I am giving everyone personal guidance, personal feedback on coaching sessions. So that's my reason really for keeping it at a small number, because I only have so much of my own energy and willpower to bring in time to bring to the table. But because a lot of people, and I love this, like about half of the people in the program, half of the 21 right now are in Europe, they're doing things virtually. It does open up a bit more physical space and space to, I think, let a couple more people in. So it's still going to be incredibly small. I'll cap it at like maybe 23, but there are a couple spots available that I do want to open up, and it starts 2 weeks from tomorrow. And again, especially if you're joining virtually, no problem. You could join, you could come in, the night before it starts, because nothing officially begins until January 30th. Even if you want to fly and join us live, that would be amazing. You have a couple weeks to do that. So if you want to talk more about the program, this is the time. Just let me know. I'll talk with you anytime about it. So thanks so much for listening. I'll put the link here to all the previous Change Coach conversations. I hope they're helpful. Whether, again, it's not all about coming to this particular training. I hope if you're a coach, if you're trained already, if you're just interested in maybe doing this work someday, if you just want to see more about it for personal reasons, I hope looking at things from this angle is really helpful, and I appreciate you listening. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon.